But first, what's that old saying? There's three things in life that are certainties: death, taxes, and a pro-Palestinian rally every Sunday afternoon through the streets of Sydney. This weekend was the 15th protest in a row. Not that it's making any difference at all to events in the Middle East, but it's making a massive difference to the New South Wales police budget. $223,000 per protest in police wages, with a running tally of $3 million. And of course, that will be picked up by the Sydney taxpayers. Now, the New South Wales Police Association has rightly pointed out this is not sustainable, and so they've come up with a couple of suggestions. Firstly, perhaps these protests could be monthly rather than weekly. Second, maybe rather than parading through the streets, which requires a massive police presence, they could just all meet in Hyde Park. Or third, and here's an idea, maybe they could pay for it themselves. Of course, the organisers, the Palestinian Action Group, are having none of that. Protesting is their democratic right. One of their spokespeople said, and I quote, "We won't be staying still or stopping. Part of demonstrating is to disrupt businesses in order to be heard." Well, Caleb, there's disrupting businesses and there's economic vandalism, and I'd suggest 15 Sundays in a row is more of the latter than the former. And as for their right to be heard, well, I think we've well and truly heard them, haven't we?
Well, if you haven't heard them by now, you need to go and get some hearing aids, I think is probably the point. Unfortunately, you can't stop people from protesting, and nor should you stop people from protesting. We live in a democratic country. That is part of the deal. People say repugnant things, they hold us up. We sort of acknowledge that that's just part of it, because maybe one day we'll feel the need to protest about something else as well, and you wouldn't like to think that you would be prevented from doing so. But surely you can create some parameters within which these people protest. You say, OK, you've been doing this since October. Surely now we've got the point. You can do it in a park where you're not moving through the streets and disrupting everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never going to get $220,000 out of them every weekend to stump up the cost of getting the coppers there. Just make them do it in one place. Why can't we create those rules? And of course, the coppers themselves are tearing their hair out because they don't have enough police to do this job in the first place. That's why it costs so much, because they're paying them overtime. This was the president of the New South Wales Police Association today explaining the situation from their end.
Mate, basically, we're down 1,500 under strength as it is. I've got 1,100 odd blokes off sick. The simple fact is that it places an enormous strain on our cops, and ultimately that just can't keep going on.
I mean, they've got 1,100 coppers off sick, for heaven's sake.
Are they though, or are they just prolonging their Christmas holidays? I mean, that seems like an incredible amount of sick cops.
It's a pretty good effort, but $220,000, something has to give at some point. Like, surely, whether it's the state government stepping in or the police simply saying, well, we're going to show you and we're not going to rock up and patrol this protest anymore, and then someone will have to do something about it after that. It cannot continue as it currently is.
But they're going to do it. We already know that. So unless they're given the parameters, they could bankrupt the state if they just kept this up and up. Maybe that's part of the plan. It's like every single rally we have, and the bigger they get, the more expensive they are. Let's just empty the pockets of the taxpayer until everyone's on board with the agenda. But much like the climate change agenda, all you're doing is seriously peeving people off. What I want to do is go to these rallies and have a pop fox and ask people there what they're doing there, what they think they're going to achieve, because I think most of them have a grip on the situation that's similar to this guy.
Socialist alternative to Sunak and Starmer for a socialist intifada. Yeah. What's a socialist intifada?
If I'm being honest with you, I just got this at the stand over there.
Oh, okay.
I don't actually know the definition of the word intifada.
Okay.
But, I mean...
Do any of you know the definition of the word intifada?
I don't know what it is, but I want one. The questions you'd be able to ask these people would be marvellous. Just be like, so why in 75 years has no Palestinian leadership actually accepted any offer of peace? what would they say to that? Are they even aware of that? Have you heard of pay for slay? Why do you think the leadership in the West Bank is still paying Palestinians to kill Israelis? How do you feel about that genocide going on, which is totally in their charter, by the way, if we're going to talk about genocide? Talk to me about that.
Well,
Next.
there's been interviews where they said, you know, from the river to the sea, can you name the river, can you name the sea? And it's amazing how many protesters have been chanting it for weeks and can't name it.
They have absolutely no idea. And also, nobody's done enough journalistic work on the fact that the death count that these people keep decrying, the 23, mainly women and children, 23,000, that's Hamas's stats.
Yeah.
The IDF say we've killed 9,000 Hamas fighters and 1,500 within Israel, but they're all Hamas fighters.
But
nobody looks into that either.
Let's say those stats are true, right? Let's say it is 25,000 deaths. Well, whose fault is that? Hamas were the ones who invaded Israel on October 7. More fools them. They're the ones responsible.
And keep using them as human shields.